Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Go ahead and fire away. You can unmute yourself, type in questions about yourself, your practice, your clients, your family, friends, anything goes.
And go ahead, Robert.
Hey, Mr. Robert.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Doing good. How about yourself? How's vacation?
Pretty good. Had a good vacation. Sunday evening, we were sitting around with relatives, actually all of Sunday. And afterwards, I had about 20 mosquito bites on my legs. And they're still itchy, scratchy, swollen, red. What can I do about it? Is there any oils technique?
Yeah, like I would say some form of like chamomile, Roman chamomile, even German chamomile, although it'd be a little messy because it's blue. Milfoil, helichrysum, lavender will probably work as well, but I'd also take something that's a bit of an antihistamine. Oil wise, it would be kind of abstract one would be Greenland moss or something like that. It's not specific to mosquito bites, but it does reduce the antihistamine effect. Another one would also be Melissa. If you had Melissa with you, a few drops of that. Also quercetin, or just take a Benadryl or something, and it should calm it down. Because a lot of times the bites, it's an allergic response. It's an inflammatory response. So, treat it topically, but also treat it internally.
Funny part is I had Melissa with me, but I had stopped taking it because it was sort of a casual, easy flow trip, right. And I sort of forgot. Okay, I'll take some Melissa internally and I'll do some Roman chamomile topically.
Yeah, that's perfect. The perfect
Awesome.
color. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And for some reason, if that's not working, let us know. But
I will
usually we'll knock it out.
The mosquitoes only hit people with type O blood.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in this case, different species of mosquitoes go for different blood types.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either until we looked it up while we were there. So thank you much.
That explains a lot about vampires. No, I'm joking.
That's funny. You put up a new class, Harnessing the Law of Cycles 3 Brain version. Could you explain that?
That's actually an older class that we've done. And so if you've already done the harnessing of, what would we call it? Harnessing of the law of cycles?
Yeah, Harnessing the Law of Cycles.
So that is working with the metaphorical energies of the seasons and the equinoxes and solstices and blood work. And so when we presented that originally, it was to get those ideas out and start preparing the body for it. But instead of doing a whole new different class, I just thought, those oils are already present in that class. We'll just do like an updated version of that. Sometimes we kind of juice the class up a little bit. And so that's what we're going to do. And so if you've already had the class, it's a review for you. And if you haven't had the class, it's going to be tied to the taking the 3 brain work a little bit further, like a little bit deeper, using the oils for the blood, the 1 through 4, and then the seasons, and then the equinoxes and solstices, which are all in the kit. I don't think that kit came with blood 1 through 4, but it does. It has everything in it. Okay. Yeah. So it apparently has everything in it. So yeah, I mean, it's almost an entirely different class, but since we're going to utilize the same oils, I just thought, let's just revamp it a little bit, upgrade it, and have it just be a review for most of you guys. So yeah, it'll be fancy though. It's definitely will be different than the first time you took it, if you took that before. Yeah.
And then go ahead, Peggy, then Ralph.
Hey, Miss Peggy.
Hello.
Hey,
You know, turmeric. I know what turmeric is. It's basically what an anti-inflammatory, but my turmeric oil, best how internally or just breathing it or both or what?
What are you trying to use it for?
Well, I think it's an anti-inflammatory, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
but like, are you treating something specific, or are you just doing something general?
General and specific, I seem to have a lot of mucus, and so I read the mucus thing that you did recently, but I see my turmeric and I thought I bought turmeric for a reason. And so I'm thinking anti-inflammatory is what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
and inflammatory, I mean, it's good for sore throats, good for the brain. A few drops internally, 2, 3 drops is good. It's also very good topically, like if you have like arthritic issues or things in the joint. If you have like a sore throat, gargle or a couple of drops rubbed on the back of the tongue, a lot of times will knock out the sore throat. Mucus. Yeah, I mean, you could try it there. I'd probably use other things, but like, especially if there's a lot of inflammation, I mean, it could be helpful with the inflammation. Um,
Well,
rosemary verbena or helichrysum, even things like the yarrow and chamomiles and things like that might work a little bit better, but
so the
yeah.
back of the throat really isn't sore, but
Mhm.
I think coughing up the stuff, it's kind of
Oh, I see. Yeah,
slightly raw back there.
yeah. Do it as a
Not bad.
gargle. Do it as a gargle.
Oh, as a gargle.
Like, yeah, do 2 or 3 drops and do like a little bit of pulling and like lean back and gargle a bit. Yeah,
Okay.
that should help that.
Well, I really like the smell of it too. I was
Oh
just
yeah,
breathing.
turmeric's nice. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you
You're
very
so
much.
welcome. How long's the mucus been going on, Peggy?
Oh, going back to uh um a while, a while. What the reason is the cardiologist shifted my med to keep my cardiac rate and rhythm normal. But when I started having all this mucus, I looked it up and it's not supposed to be used for COPD. And 30 years ago, I had a diagnosis, but I haven't had a problem with it in a lot of years. And so I have to get a new cardiologist, and I'm hoping he'll make it the beta blocker just for that, not where it's affecting my lungs.
So one of the best oils for COPD
Yeah.
is German chamomile. Like
Yeah, I've got it on order. I think it's in the mail.
Yeah. So inhalation and internal on that. And so if you what do you have? Do you have like yarrow, you have helichrysum, you have
Yes, I got both of those.
one until the German chamomile gets there, why don't you do inhalations with yarrow?
Okay.
Yeah,
Easy
like
to do.
that will help ease the COPD and the inflammation. The German chamomile will definitely work better, but it's still what you can use until it gets to you. And then still do the things that we talked about with the turmeric and everything. And, the mucus.
It's clear and frothy, and it
Is
takes
it
a
just in
lot.
the nose or is it in your
Oh
lung?
no, it comes up from the bottom of your lungs.
Okay.
I have I have a concave sternum, pushes on the left lower lobe, kind of closes that off. And then I had RSV in the early 90s and wiped out my right lower lobe. So this looks like atelectasis, one on x-ray, but the medication has activated the COPD to the point of, yeah.
So let's have you do everything that we talked about, but like let's just explore a couple of things that you have. Do you have terebinth?
Yes, I do.
Rub it on your sternum. Like
Okay.
like 1 or 2 times a day, rub it on your sternum. And
Okay.
the idea is also just like when I look at there's there's the functions of the respiratory tract, but then skeletal muscles also are involved in elevating the rib cage and all of that. And you have a glitch on the sternum itself. Like, it's not necessarily in muscles like the pectoralis minor here or the sternocleidomastoid, or a big one can be the serratus anterior, which is like on your side of your body, the side of your
Right.
ribs. All of those are usually ones that jump out more, but probably because of that concave sternum,
Yeah.
you have just like bound up fascia on the sternum. It's not a muscle, it's just the fascia. But if you open that up, I mean, it's not going to be a game changer, but it will just
Help a little.
yeah, it will help a little bit. It will make it easier to take a deep breath, to cough things out and ease your breath. And do you ever feel like pressure on your sternum?
A little pressure,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely do the
Sides as well.
Yeah. What's that?
On the sides as well. You know how you have us turn to side, and that'll get me coughing too. So that those muscles on the side of the rib cage are also involved to a degree.
Throw a little terebinth over on those sides too, like whatever you
Okay.
can reach. Yeah, but definitely the sternum. And then let me know how that feels in a few days or a week.
Okay, I will. You're so sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah. You keep me posted.
you. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're so.
And then go ahead, Ralph, then Sahaja.
Hey, Ralph.
Hey, Greg. I've been wondering for a while about, you'll occasionally give a particular oil in a class for a class,
Mhm.
and then you'll also have a series of other oils, and then you don't really say in the handout which oil is the best. For example, in the seven steps to immunity,
Mhm.
on the first page you had lantana, but you also had emotional release in there. What is the energetic or the functional difference between those two oils, and why would I choose one over the other?
So the emotional release will help release like the emotional component.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember what step it was for.
It
Let me
was for
look
the
it up
first
so that
one
we're-
where we're doing
Yeah,
recall
let
of
me
feeling
look
on the
it up.
front.
Real-
Okay.
Yeah, because as much as I pound the rosemary, my memory's not as great as it used to be.
Okay.
Okay, so we are talking. Okay, so it's the very first step.
Mhm.
Um, so it would depend. Sometimes all of these are A+ choices,
Mhm.
but sometimes certain ones might resonate more with a particular person than the other. So
Okay.
here, emotional release, because what we're doing here is we're recalling a feeling and then you're moving it up from the solar plexus up to the heart.
Right.
So if you just look at that mechanically, if it's just about the feeling, then the emotional release would probably be your best bet. But then when we take a step back and go, yeah, but what if we want to go deeper or something like this? Lantana is a really kind of like odd and interesting oil. Like I say odd, but like in a positive way. Sometimes odd is negative. This would be kind of a positive. And one of the things that it does is it's very good for releasing the deeper head of the sternocleidomastoid, which is a deeper
Okay.
muscle in your neck.
Mhm.
And that
Yep.
muscle is involved in elevating the rib cage, but it has an impact on like the inner ear and brain function and blood flow to the head. Like it does a bunch of things, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I find very interesting about that particular muscle is it can influence the respiratory rate, and it is very much tied to the instinctive responses and your stress response. And so even though you're inhaling up high in the neck and the throat, it actually will shift around the sixth chakra, which is also associated with the root brain, and then the basic chakra, which is tied to defense mechanisms and things like that. And so you could say that those instinctive responses can dictate how much and how intense your feelings are. They don't necessarily generate the feelings, but they can send a scathing email to the feeling, you know what I mean, to like stimulate like more or make them like more intense.
Right.
And so the lantana, I use it quite often. Like it opens up the throat and the breath and the neck, but it really releases a lot out of those lower centers and can be very calming and soothing to the feelings. And I'm really differentiating between lower emotions and feelings, because feelings are a little bit more subtle and almost like turn into the emotions. And so they're like the precursor to the emotions. And you could almost say they're like kind of pre-conscious. And
So do I understand you that when we have like root brain, lower emotions and feelings, it's sort of like the root brain is the hardware, and then the feelings are kind of like
okay.
the end result?
Like let me say it like this, like we will make it like less technical, because it's kind of hard to explain technically. But
Okay.
have you ever had a friend where like you're doing something and say you're getting a job, or you're doing well, and say you're out playing golf. Let's say that you're out playing golf, and the golf pro gives you some tips and tells you how to do this and maybe compliments you, and then they go, why they did that is because he's trying to work you for money, and da 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 da, and like puts this like weird thing in your ear, and then you're like, I don't know if I like what the golf pro told me, when the golf pro just told you some nice things, right?
Right.
That's the way the instincts are. Like they put a weird little twist on the emotions that's not always true or accurate. And they can agitate something that maybe isn't even that agitated, but they can crank it from 1 to 10 kind of quickly. And so again, they're not necessarily what's generating them, but they can definitely make him go good or make him go bad. And when they're unregulated or when they're full of stress, there's so much anticipation of what potentials are that it tends to make it like go bad, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Stress, if the stress mechanisms in the sex chakra are regulated, you're more able to let something play out to see what's really happening versus reacting. But if they're agitated, you'll react to a potential rather than what's happening. I guess that's the best way. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Sorry it took me so long to get there. Like I was circling the drain going, I got to come up with, but that's what it is like if you see a situation where you go, oh, this is happening, and you go, I'm going to see how this plays out. That instinctive response is regulated. But if you see that thing and then you're like, this could happen, that could happen, they're up to this, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, I've seen this before, you just start going to crazy places, which we all do, right?
Yeah.
It's because that response in that particular situation is not regulated. It could be regulated in other areas, but in that area it could be not regulated. So think of it as like volume control for your feelings.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So like when we post something like this, for one, like if it was like a paid class, I would have just said, okay, this is the target, this is the oil. But here we're throwing out things that are potentials. sometimes the ones that I list are all AA choices, but they do have variations and different personality types that it might hit. And, for me, I'll go through and I'll explore several of these, like I might not do all of them, but I'll do several of them. And just see which one works for me right now. But in a month, it might be something different.
All right.
So you have oils in your kit and you just kind of pull things out of different kits and you go, okay, I'm gonna try this one, I'm gonna try that one. And for a long time for me, it was Gilead. Boy, Gilead just rocked it. And over a period of time, it switched over to emotional release for me. And then I've been on a kick now with, personally with just Lantana. Man, I'm working Lantana. Makes me breathe better, makes me feel better. My head's clearer. I relax more. It releases so much more stress out of the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
In general, for the
Mhm.
color oils like blue, gold, green, red.
Mhm.
So as I understand the oils, it's like they have a very specific frequency and they do very specific things, typically for the body.
Mhm.
Am I following this correctly?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So if you've called out a particular color oil, you're looking for a very tight, focused intent for what that oil is going to be doing.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So if I have blue oil versus Gordaldo,
Yeah,
even though
I would use the
Gordaldo
blue.
is based on a blue oil, the blue healer is going to be
Right.
very tightly focused on some aspect of the blue.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the healers are in a group unto themselves, because there are stimulating colored pranas in the body in ways that other oils and blends don't quite do.
Mhm.
I mean, they do it somewhat, but those healer blends, I blended those in like it's hard to explain, but like when I blend things, there's like different things that I use as like a primer, like like to measure things against, like I might use the spiritual cord or the mental permanent seed or the effects in the nervous system, and the colored oils, the different healers,
Mhm.
they're done to a different like primer, like they're not blended like anything else I blend,
Okay.
basically. Yeah, the only thing that would be close to it would be assemblage point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that helps me understand. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, like in the early days, I thought about talking about how I blended it, and I've actually presented at conferences, like essential oil conferences, like the different ways of blending, and yeah, like it let's just say it wasn't well received. It wasn't like bad, it's just nobody kind of understood what I was talking about. And when I've done it with students, it makes it a little too confusing. So I almost do it like in reverse, where like have these experiences and then we can kind of talk about it. Where if I talk about it beforehand, it's just too much. Even for myself, sometimes I have to sit and like kind of go, wait, what am I doing? Like it's so much information sometimes that it's not helpful.
Well,
Like
yeah,
you
it
know what I
seems
mean?
like it to my, from what I've done, things I've done in my background,
Mhm.
it's like blending these oils is going to be partially you're running on your energetic sense of how things are fitting together. And it's not so much intellectual
Yeah,
sense
it's not
about
logic. It
if
is
I put
not
these two
logic.
transistors together, I'm going to get
Right.
this.
Right.
Whereas my energetic sense is if I put these two transistors together, there are these variables that I've got to take into account.
Exactly.
It
I
becomes
mean,
like
you actually said it
an
much more.
art as
Yeah.
opposed to a science.
Yeah, you said it much more beautifully than I did. Like like you know, when you're blending for, like, say, a symptom of something, that is a pretty straightforward way to do it. You're still looking at processes, but like
Mhm.
the healers, it's almost like any sort of form or structure or anything, you completely let that go. And it's like you're blending for like a movement of sorts. Like you're looking at, like, how is this going to move in the body? What is this when it moves? What is it going to generate? Versus being able to go, oh, it's this symptom, it's that symptom, it's this part of the body, it's that nervous system, it's how we shift into rest and repair into action, where that one is just like almost like pure essence, like they're
Yeah.
generating a motion or a movement.
Yep, movement, that's a good word
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just yeah.
Excellent. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
You're still welcome. Thanks for the question. That was a good question.
Okay.
And then go ahead, Sahaja, then Barbara.
Hey, Sajananda.
Hi there.
Hey.
Okay, this is a question somebody who I know asked me, and it's about protection. And she's working with, she's a home health aide. She's working with somebody who has a temper, and he's
Mhm.
she's just taking on a lot of energy, basically. And she's came to me and she said, what can I do to protect myself? And I told her what I knew. I gave her some general, surround yourself with white light, or, and I gave her one oil, but I just wanted to know what, just what you would recommend. I gave her rosemary for being on, because
Oh,
that was
perfect. Yeah,
one of
yeah. That's a great one. So the other thing that I would ask, does she get triggered by the person? Like, is it just the person's like going blah, 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 blah? Or is it like when she starts to say something, it triggers your friend?
That's hard to say. I'm not quite sure. I know that she stands up for herself really well with him. If I don't know if that's an answer. I don't think it triggers her.
Well,
I
if she's
think-
standing up for herself and like creating boundaries and things, I would say that's
Yeah.
probably not, she might get agitated, but she's still not triggered to the point where, she gets upset or has a meltdown or something. So
No.
I think she's in a good place. Rosemary will definitely help that even more so. And then the other oil that I would give her is hyssop. And the
Oh.
reason why I would give her hyssop is hyssop diminishes the tendency to absorb negativity from another person or the environment.
Mhm.
And so healthcare providers and like even in the corporate world, usually the go-to thing would be hyssop and rue. But I would say, the rosemary verbena internally is one of the things that I would have suggested. So you're right on the money. Have her inhale and put hyssop on her wrist. And
Okay.
then if she wanted, I mean, she might benefit from rue, but the other thing that I would say is probably more than the rue is something like the etheric cords or the ironbark eucalyptus, just to kind of keep cleaning the cords between her
Mhm.
and the other person.
Right.
And
Would you just inhale that?
yeah, just inhale it. I've honestly, for her, I'd probably keep it in the pocket, and whenever
Well,
there
that's
was
what
a
she
weird
does.
negative interaction, I'd say walk away and inhale it for like 2 minutes and then just keep moving.
Right. I gave her just a little roller ball. I actually said, you can just sniff this and roll it
Yeah.
on your wrists and with the rosemary. So that's what she's able to do while she's there. She said she just turns around, pulls it out, does a little sniffing, and then is back there,
Yeah, perfect.
cleared out. But so I'll tell her about some of the, especially the hyssop. I think that'll be really good. And
Yeah, so she could rotate those three, but I would say even with the rosemary verbena, if she's comfortable with it, she could take a couple drops internally, like maybe twice a day, and that would kind of fortify her enough. Like the rosemary verbena definitely makes you, like, it tempers the instinctive responses, which eventually is what we would call like being triggered and things, and it just helps you to, it's like it integrates, it's God, like when I was writing that a night or two ago, I was just like, God, how can I say this in like a way that makes sense? But it's like the logical mind and that state of just being, when you're not really doing something, you're just like, you're like, you're in the intuitive mind and you're just, like how you are like in meditation. It's like it integrates those two. And when those two are integrated, it diminishes that tendency to anticipate what's going to happen and just be present with it, and it can just make you a lot less reactive when you use it over a period of time. Might not do it on the first dosage, but like if you keep using it for a little while, you'll just notice like your responses just kind of go to like, gonna see how this plays out when somebody's like having a meltdown. Like, okay, well, you got it all out. Okay, now sit down and behave yourself. Like, it's literally kind of like that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, this is helpful. I'm glad I picked the right one to begin with.
Yeah, super good choice. And there's several oils that have protective qualities just by their nature. Hyssop is one, rosemary is one, rue is one. Sage can be helpful, but I don't know that sage would work in this one. And like frankincense, myrrh, mugwort, all of those are helpful for certain things, but for the situation that she's in, it's very specific to what she's going through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, good choices.
Thank you.
Good for you. Check you out.
Yeah, and then you wrote about it this week in the newsletter. So
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I actually printed out for her off the website what you wrote about, what's there under the rosemary, just to show her. It says protection right here.
Yeah. I mean, it's been used for protection since ancient times. Like it's used in a lot of different traditions, a lot of different ways, and in certain traditions they would even use it like in exorcisms and things like this. And exorcisms are really just a way of purifying the environment of elementals. Like it's not some big bag being that's doing something. It's just usually the environment is just really dirty, and it just is a way to kind of clean things up. And again, elementals are tied to those reactive mechanisms in our body, and so like be it used externally or internally, it calms all that down.
Great, thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Barbara, then Malkia.
Hey, Miss Barbara.
Hey there. I'm wondering if you could help me with how to determine which transmutation pattern to use when.
Okay.
If you could distinguish between them a little bit. And if there are particular oils to use with a particular pattern, if and when. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That
I mean, it's kind of a big question, I
yeah,
guess.
it can be a little bit complicated, but still So I'd say right off the bat, I mean, it depends on what you're addressing, so it doesn't make it as easy. Even when you do it without oils and you do those practices with that, still, it's like you would almost evoke certain kinds of feelings to then go through and transmute. So even that like can be very different, given what you're trying to achieve. But rule of thumb, a good one to use for the Mingmen back heart crown is ginger lily. Ginger lily is really, really super good for that. It transmutes like sadness, grief, shifts of perception, shifts of perception can kind of be a big deal. Like here we're talking about it like in the form of like loss or like loss of a perception, loss of a friend or a family member, loss of a situation. Ginger lily can be very helpful in that, especially if it's inducing some sort of pain, right? There's a lot of other things that you could use there, but in general, that's a good one to do. Then you have the sex chakra, back heart, back throat, crown. A slightly lesser version, like a more tempered version, is to go sex chakra, front heart, front throat, crown. Again, it kind of is tied to what you're trying to do. If it's just like stress response kind of stuff, you could use frankincense. But the thing that's really nice about that pattern is, done properly, it can break patterns of attachment, basically like forms of detachment. And for that, I would say aloes. Aloes is really super good for that.
I think that's what you were recommending, the sweet. I don't know that I put it in the context of attachment. I think we were talking about environment or elementals or something.
Attachments could be to like patterns, to people, to places, to behaviors, to certain outcomes. Like I used to know this person. He would say he wanted to tithe, not to me. He was just like, he was from a tradition, and he goes, yeah, I want to tithe to, the teacher in my tradition. And so, he was running that by me, and I was like, oh, okay, you asking me like how to do it, or like I wasn't quite clear. And then he kept saying, yeah, I feel like I have to be a certain level or degree of like successful to come back around to tithe. And I was like, okay, or you could just tithe a little tiny bit. It doesn't have to, I mean, you could tithe $10. Like, it doesn't have to be anything. And he was like, no. I have to be famous and wealthy for me to be able to tithe. And we went round and round about it for about 15 or 20 minutes. And I realized he's like attached to the story. And what he was asking wasn't necessarily, can you help me tithe? He was asking, can you help me be famous and wealthy? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't present it the way that he meant, but he was super attached to this particular outcome where he couldn't take any sort of action, right? The thing in front of him he couldn't do because he was so attached to this like story that, maybe it was going to play out, maybe it wasn't, but given the trajectory that he was going to end up being famous, it's probably not going to happen. Wealthy or not, hard to say, but the way that he wanted to be famous, he didn't have a skill set in that area. I mean, just bottom line. And we get attached to behaviors, we get attached to outcomes, we get attached to ways of thinking, because like sometimes we put something in motion and it's like I'm attached to what I've been working towards, when you realize like maybe I don't want to do this. Like I'll tell you mine. Like all in my 20s, I was working towards something that my family, especially my grandparents, they really wanted for me. And then as I got to the point where I achieved it, I realized I don't care. Like, I don't care. I have no desire to do this. I don't even like it. Like, I don't know why I did it. I did it because I was attached to their story. Like, I was attached to their story, their agenda, I was attached to pleasing them, you know, not disappointing them, all those things. And, you know, when I achieved it, not only did I not care, nobody else cared. Like, none of the family cared, not, like, nobody cared. And so the only thing that propelled me through that in my 20s was my attachment to this idea. And had I been able to let go of it, I would have spent some time doing things more in alignment with what I was wanting to do, rather than being attached to this silly story that everybody cooked up for me when I was young. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that kind of stuff.
I think I get that, particularly
Yeah.
being attached to not disappointing what turns out
Yeah,
to be
it
someone
could be,
else's idea and not necessarily yours.
yeah. And even like, you could even say, like, certain parts of your personality are just like, can be like almost an attachment to family characteristics. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is what we do. This is what my family does. And it's not conscious. You know, it's not conscious at all. But as you start to become more aware of it, you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then you still catch yourself doing it. There's a certain attachment that kind of comes with that, that really is, if you follow it and boil it down, it's in the sex chakra. It's not about sex. It's about social interaction, how you present yourself socially, the collective unconscious, you know, how you attract the things in your life that you attract. It's tied to all these things. And so yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. So that the sex, back heart, back throat, crown pattern, and you said particularly with aloes. would be
Yeah, you could use aloes, or you could also use frankincense.
Frankincense.
Frankincense is a little bit more, because if you think about, like, that is also where a lot of where we get triggered and the stress response happens. And the stress response is, we have this state, or this, you know, this place, this way of thinking, and then we get displaced. So it's really, our attachments are being challenged, is really what stress is. You know, when you don't have the attachments, you just go, okay, we're changing. But when you have, like, okay, I've established my comfort, I've established this, I've established, like, this is how I present myself, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing for the next, you know, 12 months in my work, and this is how I present myself to the family and, you know, my friends, and on my Facebook, and then something comes in and challenges that, and it kind of stresses you out. It's your attachment is getting challenged, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And so, and then another good transmutation is the basic, the spleen, the Ming Men, and the crown. And you could say this has to do with how, like, energy moves up and down the spine, but it also very much has to do with the aura and the energy body, like, you know, the resonance of the aura. And so here you could use several things. The single oil that you could use that is very fancy is poplar balsam. Poplar balsam rocks that pattern. But the other things that you could use are the seven blends from the Sandalphon class, you know, the Glory of Lebanon, the Moses, the Chakra Root Cleanser, the Master's Blend, the Aura Cleanse, the Solomon's Hyssop, and the Nimbus. Like, all of those could be worked in that pattern.
Great. Thank you. When are we doing that class again?
You know, like I'm thinking instead of doing the whole class, I'm thinking during the holidays, we're gonna do like a 1 day thing with that, like just a study group, a free study group. And just kind of explore some really like nuts and bolts of like how to just rapidly clean the energy body non-specifically. Like, you know, what we talked about in that class was very specific things, but just to kind of go back through and go, okay, non-specifically, how do you rapidly clean some things up? And there's all kinds of little tricks. And so yeah, I thought we'd explore that a little bit, things that we haven't talked about before.
Gets my vote.
Yeah, we'll probably do it like in and around Christmas or between Christmas and New Year's or right after New Year's, somewhere in there. We'll be doing that. I want to do a bunch of like little study groups all through that time, you know, little free study groups.
And then go ahead, Malkia, and then Cynthia.
Hey, Makia.
Let's get you unmuted.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, how's everybody?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Uh, I'm doing good, but I got an issue here with my kidneys.
Okay.
I understand from Zakia
Mhm.
that you had recommended lovage for some kidney issues. So I'm
Tell
just
me what's going on. Like let's
okay.
yeah, tell me what's up.
Okay. I have been dealing with high creatinine
Okay.
for a couple of years now, but I have a herbal formula which has kept it under control.
Hmm.
Now it's starting to creep up.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if you can offer me some help. I have used the lovage once or twice, and it really kind of just snapped the kidneys back into
Yeah.
shape
Did you take it internally or use it topically?
internally.
Okay.
1 drop in the
Yeah.
water.
I think what I'd like you to do, maybe still do like 1 drop internally and then maybe a couple of drops like over that kidney area and the low back area.
Okay,
Yeah. Just like put a couple drops in your hand and then rub it and then just
right.
rub it on the back like that. Yeah.
Okay. Because I really do not want to go
I don't blame you. Yeah.
the dialysis route.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid that at all costs. So how often should I do the
Daily.
internal drop?
Daily.
Daily?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was too much or not, but okay. Great. Okay, great. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
You're so welcome.
Appreciate it.
And then go ahead, Cynthia, and then I think we have another couple chat questions.
Hey, Cynthia.
Hi.
Hey.
So, I've been working on these bruises and things
Mhm.
with helichrysum and also with the prickly pear and plum kernel in the below the eyes. But
Mhm.
I've been using the helichrysum. So I guess what my question is, because I have trouble seeing it, like seeing on the sides of the face really clearly knowing, like you would if you were looking at someone else, versus me looking at me in the mirror.
Right.
So I also have an area that I've been using hyssop on under my chin. It has an area that's discolored and then also an area that at least feels like a scab.
Okay.
So part of my question is in regards to the helichrysum, there are certain areas on my face that feel as if they might be either drying out a lot or almost reddening a little on the surface of the skin. So I'm trying to figure out if I need to tag team helichrysum with something else, or
I would put it
just talk
probably
about
in.
heat in
Yeah.
general first.
I would probably put it in some sort of a little bit of carrier.
And
Like,
what would you suggest for the carrier?
You could do like a little bit of rose hip oil, or you could use a little bit of the prickly pear oil on
Okay,
that area. If you don't want it to be oily, like a base oil like that, take like a little drop, like a few little drops of like aloe vera, and put a drop of the oil in, and then move it around, and then put it in the area.
okay,
That could be very helpful. It'd be very soothing, and also moisturizing to the skin without making it oily.
okay. Do
Yeah.
you think the prickly pear would help the discoloration that's on the neck?
I mean, it has a potential. Like it's hard to predict, but the combination of the helichrysum and the prickly pear is a good combination for that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
That's probably the biggest. I was listening really closely to the conversation about emotional release and ginger lily and so on, just because of the back and forth
right,
that had gone on when I was at the doctor's office.
right, right.
So do you think, is there one in particular for me as I move through it?
Emotional release, yeah,
Okay.
emotional release, yeah.
All right,
Like I think it's just like kind of cleaning up the bouncing back and forth in that particular situation,
sure.
versus like the ginger lily is a little bit more for like grieving something. And
Okay,
and it's not always like the grieving the loss of a person or something, but it could be a situation or whatever. But I mean, it probably would feel nice, but it wouldn't quite address what you're trying to address.
okay.
Yeah.
And if I have any other questions. So what I currently have, I could do more of the prickly pear. Do I need to
Yeah.
do it separate or just, okay?
No, just you could add a little extra drop like for under the neck and stuff. You could
Okay.
add a little extra drop of helichrysum when you do that, but it's kind of good to go.
All right, that's great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're so
And still feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hands in the chat. I'm just gonna go into the chat here. Are there supplemental oils to consider adding for the ramped up class?
no, just same old kid.
I see there's a handful of different Metatron classes. Can you talk about the upcoming Metatron class specifically?
Yeah, so the yeah, like Metatron's very complex. So like, there's no way that we could cover all the different aspects very quickly or in a weekend. But the 8 materializations of Metatron are based on kind of, the way to say it is, in your mind, when you're thinking of different things, there's these different avenues that you go down. One might be your health, one might be your family, one might be relationships, one might be prosperity, one might be education and knowledge and how you pursue it. Like, so basically these 8 materializations are 8 different streams of thinking that we all have. They're very universal, and to kind of go through and reboot them with like activating them, filling them with light so that they're processing more rather than just laying dormant or stagnant or based on like past experiences. And so it's a way of opening up the intuitive mind and making the logical mind a little bit more flexible, but in a way that's very specific to these 8 avenues. And so it's like what people try to do with feng shui on the bagua. They try to affect this from the outside in. This is like doing it from the inside out. And so it increases and improves the energy that you draw upon from the different directions for manifestation, but it opens up how you think about these different areas. be it your health, prosperity, and goals, bringing in helpful people and people that you collaborate with, relationships and experiencing love, all these components are all addressed. So what we have you do is you focus on something, and then we go through a process with each one. And it doesn't have to be super specific when you reflect on it, but you just think of the idea of, okay, how do I experience love in my life, or with a partner, or with friends? And then how do I address my health? How do I address the pursuit of knowledge and experience and expertise? And you're addressing these different aspects. So very different than the other Metatron classes that we've done. Very, very different.
You may have already kind of answered this, but does it play into what we've been learning?
It's yeah, like it very much ties into the effectiveness of the three brains. And in fact, when I was teaching the three brain techniques to in Astara to some places in India, the original name of the seventh class in the first series, because we have a couple, series 1, series 2, and then eventually series 3, was actually the materializations of Metatron. Like it plays very much a role in active clairvoyance. And so we'll even be touching on, we're not using the blend for Metatron, but we're going to talk about some of the aspects of Metatron in the angelic class coming up this weekend. Part of what we're going to do is we're going to do this kind of universal process for utilizing and working with angels in a very systematic way, and unlocking the physiology so that you really can integrate it non-specific to a particular angel, and then you can work different angels within it. But also what I'm doing is providing a bit of a encyclopedia kind of different angels and why to work with them, and like what you're cultivating. And it's very different than if you go to the bookstore and you pull out an angel book and Michael's about this and Raphael's about this. It's like usually those explanations are very superficial and really buried more in what people would like him to do. Like it's not really invoking the angel the way we're talking about invoking the angels. And so, I mean, you could say, be it meditation or healing or working with angels or devotional practices to a deity or something like that, there's energies and experiences that are very nice and very soothing, and then there's energies and activities that change you, like they help you evolve, they shift you. And when we're talking about the angelic class, it's more the latter, like things that will like shift you in a direction, generate a movement or momentum of what you're working towards. Most times when we're in the logical mind is very good about past experiences and what we like and what we know and what we've studied and what we think and our viewpoints. But the logical mind, if you look at it from an energetic point of view, lacks movement. Like it's more of a state. The intuitive mind is all about movement. And when you're working with angels in the angelic realm, it's all about movement. It's not about the things that you're thinking. Like it's about the movement or momentum that gets generated. It's like what we were saying in the body mapping class. What you do is more important than what you think. And at first it sounds like, oh, Like my actions are more important than my thoughts, but literally what you do, like your actions, your emotions, your motivations, your movements are much more important than when you're sitting and reflecting or having your opinions and your processes and your past experiences and you're thinking this and thinking that. The movement is way more important than what you're thinking. Way more important. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to talk about because it's movement. It's like you can't grab onto it. Like going back even to the Metatron thing, it's about essence, it's about movement. It's not about, the issue is we think about something and we're like, yeah, I've arrived. I remember somebody was asking me, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and they were like, when you reach an enlightened state, do you just get to kick back and relax? And even there, that's reflective of like, I just want to maintain this state and have no movement. When really enlightenment is more movement than sitting in that place and just going, I can rest, I can relax, I can, it's all about the movement. The innovative mind, the mind that's successful in business, the mind that has a very good relationship with their partner, the mind that is dynamic in whatever realm that they're in, that mind engages movement more than it engages stasis or like being static. Being static means very little movement. Any of those things are more dynamic. Their activity, their emotion, they're evolving, they're expanding, they're unfolding.
Just keep talking. No.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, but it's like even when you have certain spiritual teachers, like you'll be listening to them. I used to have this teacher a long time ago, and like I'd sit there and listen to them, and they're talking about this movement, but they're even doing it in a way that's not about facts. They're just the way that they talk, they kind of engage this kind of movement. And I'd be like, oh, that's amazing. That is like, oh, I had such realization when I was listening to the person. I'd go back to my friends and they'd go, what'd they talk about? And they was like, well, there was these like pillars and like this thing. And then like, you try to go back and say it and it's, you're going to your past experiences, you're going back to that state where there's like no movement. And what was being taught was all about the movement. And then you try to go back and talk about it logically. I sounded like a little bit crazy, a little bit like a moron. Like I just ugh. And it's the difference between like a spiritual practice and a mystical practice. The mystical practice is all about the movement. You will learn something, but then at some point you got to put it in action. You got to put it in motion. Think of a person that goes to college, goes to university, gets all the degrees, and then they get out and they really don't do anything. They've learned something, but they haven't put it in motion. Versus a person who maybe doesn't have the degree, but had to really duke it out in the trenches, and they might not have the education, but they're way better at the motion or the movement. And usually somebody like that who has really been innovative in the things that they've done is usually more successful than the ones that went to university and then didn't really do anything for a while. Doesn't mean that people went to university aren't smart. They're very smart, but you have to really jump in and start doing something with what you learned very quickly, or stasis sets in, like, little to no movement. Yeah.
Nice. No one's those were the questions
Okay.
for now. I mean, maybe later, maybe after we do practice.
Let's do something out of I would like to go to something that we did in the 7 energetic steps to immunity. And let's have you, hopefully you guys have hyssop. I mean, it's kind of one of the staples of some of the things that we do. If you don't have hyssop, chakra root cleanser would work, but ideally you'd want to use hyssop. And just building on what we were just talking about, you could say this is a way to break out of that lack of movement into movement. You're engaging essence or light, and you're focusing it on different areas in your life. So first we're going to do a cycle of this without working a situation, and then we're going to come back around and we'll work a particular situation. So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to put your awareness like from the bottom of your feet down about 2 feet into the earth. And if you're laying down, still visualize about 2 feet into the earth. And as your awareness is 2 feet below the earth, start taking long, slow, deep breaths with the hyssop. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. That's so good. Hmm. And then just pause and be still for a moment. And again, your awareness is about 2 feet under the soles of your feet. From the soles down about 2 feet or so. And begin inhaling. And then be still. Let's do that one more time. Below your feet. Couple of feet. And then be still. Be still. Now, you're going to hold the bottle to your chest, like so. We're just going to revisit this. Then your head's going to go down. You're going to inhale, hold your breath, head up, exhale through your mouth. Down, inhale, up, exhale. 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 Just be still. Bottle to your chest again, chin down. Do 8 or 9 of that materialization breath. Inhale, hold your breath, up, exhale. That's 1. Do 8 or 9 of those. Now you're just being still, you're being aware. Your awareness is on your forehead and back head. Just take some long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the forehead and back head. And then just be still. Again, your awareness is on the forehead and back head. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then pause and be still. Okay, so we're going to cycle back through this again, but this time we're going to work something in particular. So what I'd like you to do is let's have you reflect on an area where you wish for healing, where you are trying to achieve a goal, you're trying to improve a relationship, you're trying to release some emotional or mental thing you're struggling with. Could be a spiritual practice, connecting to teachings or a teacher or a deity. Whatever version of that works for you. Reflect on it for a moment. Just observe it. Think about the details of the situation. Now, move from how you think about it, that same situation, how do you feel about it? Just tap into the feelings, not the story, not the thoughts, not the ideas, not the things that happened. Just tap into the feeling. Feeling go. Move your awareness to below your feet. Couple feet down. And begin inhaling with the hyssop. That feeling. And then pause and let go. Just pause and let go. Again, couple feet into the earth. And then pause and be still. Bottle to your chest, chin down. Do 8 or 9 of the materialization breaths. Just be still. Just be still. Something's happening. Just let it incubate. Bottle to your chest again. 8 or 9 materialization breaths again. And taking long, slow, deep breaths. Just be still. Your awareness is on your forehead and back head. You're taking some long, slow, deep breaths with the hiss up. Your awareness on your forehead and back head. You're not thinking about anything. You're not doing anything. You're just inhaling and letting go. Hmm. Then pause and let go. And then again, forehead, back head, long, slow, Deep breaths. You're just letting go. And then pause and let go. Just let it incubate for a moment. Okay, now reflect on the thing that you started with at the beginning of this process. What was it? Healing, a goal, relationship, a practice, a connection of some sort? And let's go ahead and unmute, share experiences, and also ask questions.
As per usual, you knocked people out.
Yeah.
But if you, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Oh, thanks, Sam. Hey, Greg. Just have a technical question. When we're doing focusing on the forehead and back head,
Mhm.
are we inhaling the oil or just
Yes,
focusing?
yes.
Oh, we are. Okay.
I mean, if you don't, like sometimes you start spacing out, it's okay just to put your awareness on the forehead and back head, but the oil will deepen the process.
Got it. Thank you so much.
How was your experience?
Oh, really? I was so agitated today because of everything going on at work, and it's just mellowed me out. It's
Right.
it's like that feeling when your health rates are swept. I feel that way.
Mhm. So like you bring up a good like a good point. Like sometimes we're coming off a hard day of work, or we're in the middle of a situation, or you're wanting to work on a relationship because somebody's being, it doesn't have to be a partner. It could be like a friendship, it could be a work relationship, it could be all kinds of things. And so one of the ways that you could do damage control, I was actually going to put this in next week's clinical corner on the newsletter, but we'll do part of it is, so you have the hyssop in your hand.
Uh-huh.
So let's just run through the practice real quick. So we've done this before, but it's very specific with hyssop. So begin inhaling, your awareness is on your back head.
And we would do this after that practice?
You could do it after, you could actually do it before, like Chris is saying, like she had a bad day, she wants to come home and shed the day and shed the experience, and what she's doing might not have anything to do with what she was dealing with today, but it's like, how do you shake it off? Sit down to do healing or to do a meditation or just connect with your family or just, you know, let the day go and sit and have dinner and watch a movie or, you know, whatever it is. And this can be like a little quick way to go through and do it. We do it with to balance out the autonomic nervous system with helichrysum and hyssop, but here we're just going to use the hyssop since we have it present. So you're inhaling, your awareness is on the back head. Your awareness is on your forehead. And now back heart. Your awareness is between the shoulder blades on the back heart. And then the front heart. And then just be still for a moment. And that would for you. Yeah.
That was neat.
Yeah. Samantha just said, that was neat. The idea would be to do a couple cycles. With helichrysum, you would reverse it, go front, back, forehead, backhead. But let's do it again. This is a good way to just shake off the day, especially when you're dealing with negativity or negative people, negative situations, agitation. You just are in a little bit fight, flight, or action mode. Or so again, with the hyssop, you're inhaling. Your awareness is on your back head. Your forehead, your awareness is on your forehead. And then your back heart, the area between your shoulder blades. And then the front heart. And then just pause and let go. So, Chris, how do you feel after we just did that, just 2 cycles of that?
Super unwound.
Yeah. Like, think
Yeah.
about, like, it's just like,
Thank
how
you.
could I come home and shed the day and just switch gears? Like, even like a little 5-10 minute thing of just doing that, you could shift gears kind of easily.
It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And you said follow it with helichrysum, so front heart, back heart.
Well,
Forehead.
like here, you could just use it to like how we used it to unwind the day. But
Mhm.
one of the things that I was going to post this in next week's clinical corner is a way to like balance out the autonomic nervous system, which is fight, flight, rest, and repair. The rest and repair mode is what you just did with the hyssop. And so rest and repair has to do with like letting go of the day, letting go if there's cords. Like part of how you let go of cords is if you can go deeper into rest and repair, the cords just fall away. They don't really attach like they used to. And then the absorbing of the negativity, it's hard for that to stay there in that state. The reversing the pattern with helichrysum going front heart, back heart, forehead, back head, that has more of like a calming, soothing impact on the flight mechanism. So it makes it easier for that to calm down, to become active and then just relax. And a lot of times that's getting wound up from either pain, perceived pain, or anticipating pain. And use helichrysum in that way to go through on the front side. It just diminishes the reason why we get kind of wound up. You know what I mean? Like it you could say it helps us to take like an etheric punch. Like, it just calms everything down so that jerk at work or that tough situation or the people being aggressive or complaining at you or being unreasonable, it takes the sting out of all of that, so it makes the relaxation part go even deeper.
Makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then go ahead, Deborah, then Cynthia.
Hey, Deborah.
Hi, Greg.
Hey,
It just keeps getting more exciting with the tools you're providing us.
well, you're so very sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. So I really feel like there's some major shifts going on for me from the practices. And today I really struggled with putting my finger on what was going on. It started with, I don't remember dreams, and I woke up with an image of military, like uh like a series of people with like guns on their arms. And I was like, okay, don't want to have that for the start of my day. And
Yeah.
then there's been this extreme awareness and energy. And so then I pop into this process that you had us do, and the agitation never, it just increased rather than until you had us do the hyssop with the back head, forehead, and then the back heart, front heart. And it would calm, and then within a few seconds the tightness in my upper heart would start again.
Okay. So let me ask you a couple questions. First off, you've been reading the news very much or no?
No, I
Okay. What's your
born
birth sign?
I am Pisces,
Pisces.
and I'm the really most of my rising, everything, it's like all water.
Okay. So this is what I would say. The thing is like, it's kind of how, like we talked about it a little bit in the body mapping thing. Like sometimes we think of our lower emotions or our feelings as whatever, it's something we're generating, when a lot of times it's tied to more, it can be tied to things that we're drawing up from the earth or attracting from the earth, or it's a lack of something, or you're processing something that has to do with the like the planetary influences that would help activate planetary influences, help activate the higher faculties, where your lower faculties, like your lower feelings, are more associated with the earth, like the higher emotions are more associated with the planetary energies. And so it's I find it very interesting that it's like military. So I would say it's martial energy. It's Mars. Like I would, do you have a kit that has like Mars essential oil in it? You know,
I think I do.
yeah. So take that and then work the patterns of blood purification through the lungs, the liver, the gallbladder, the kidneys, the spleen, and do a couple cycles of that. And then maybe after 2 or 3 of those, take a salt bath. Like just charcoal root cleanser, something of that, frankincense, something like that. Frankincense or charcoal root cleanser would be very solid choices there. Or if you don't want to take a salt bath, just inhale one of them with your awareness on your basic. And so sometimes what happens, especially with the kind of work that we're doing, you're going to be processing more in symbolism and less in literal pieces of information. And so, I mean, all that tells me is that your thing you should be working right now is Mars, like martial energy, like, and martial energy, like, the way we think of Mars and martial energy a lot of times is just like military energy, but that's lower Mars. Higher Mars still, like, if you think about it, it's like breaking down boundaries, breaking down limitations, breaking down patterns from the past, but doing it, the higher component is doing it in more of a qualitative way. So you're doing it through example, you're doing it by inviting reciprocation rather than the lower where it's like, like, I'm going to do it by force. And so still like kind of a little bit of a stern energy, because it's going to break things down. But like if you've ever been around like a high spiritual teacher, they could be very loving and very stern all at the same time. That's kind of a martial kind of energy, but much more refined. And so I mean, for whatever reason, that's coming up for you, and I would say just work it. Like, I mean, I am constantly rotating which planet that I work. The reason that I asked you what your birth sign was sometimes like how we process like karmic imagery would be more directly associated with our birth sign rather than some of the other signs or planets. But it doesn't always mean that that's the only thing that you work. Like when things come up, like right now, I've been on a kick for Saturn for a while, and I've been working Mercury for the last like day or two, and it's changing the emotions, it's changing my brain a little bit, like I'm a bit more focused, and who knows why it came up, but it came up, and so I just went with it. And so for you, it's Mars. Yeah.
Mars resonates in the way you described it.
Yeah. And you think about like you've been going through all kinds of things, you're breaking down boundaries and patterns and things that you're doing, and you're establishing this life and this new house and different things. It kind of fits with the things that you've been talking about. Like it makes sense.
Thank you. And I had one other question separate from this, which is you talked a little bit about why we are going 2 feet below and then gradually increasing that below our feet. Could you talk again about that? It's all fuzzy in my head right now.
Yeah. I get it. Like, it's, we're talking about very like abstract things. And so, yeah, I get it. So you could say, when we think something, when we feel something, when we behave, when we do actions, when whatever we're doing, thinking, feeling, saying, whatever, you're cultivating something like a state of awareness. Like when we think of our mind, like we go to that state of like, oh, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that. We're thinking about it like it's in our brain. A lot of it is actually below your feet. And you know, it's your connection to the earth and the things we've attracted and our experiences and the way we think and feel, and especially repetitive thinking. And so it's like almost like disengaging like the past, because like the more superficial layer is tied to more like the animalistic kind of thinking, like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, that kind of thing. And then as we break through that, we kind of get to a place where we've really purified that area below your feet. And you start to reach a place or a state where it feels very similar to like when you're meditating and things like that. It's just a more peaceful, calmer place. And then even past that is like the place where like the saints and the great yogis and all that, like that's the place that they kind of reside, so to speak. So you could almost say like the quality of your mind, especially not in the action state, but in the resting state, is more tied to what's below your feet than what's in your head. And that's very mystical, that's very esoteric. You know, it's not based on modern science, it's based on esoteric and mystical sciences. But you see the symbolism of like the peacock, or in the Buddhist tradition there's this bird-like being that called Garuda. And you know, he feeds on like the cobra or the things down below our feet, you could say. And Garuda is this great bird. It's like the god of the birds, you could say. And on it rides Vishnu, which is the divine love aspect in the Hindu tradition. And so for us to experience divine love, we have to harness the energy or the momentum of Garuda, which basically is just a metaphorical way of saying you have to purify down below your feet. And so in the Christian tradition, you know, when Mary puts the nard on the feet of Christ and wipes it off with her hair, you know, that kind of is what purifying the feet could look like a little bit. But when Christ goes to wash the feet of the disciples, and you know, one of the disciples says, no, teacher, please, not me. And Christ says, you know, if you don't let me wash your feet, you're not my disciple, right? And what that means is if that area around the feet and below the feet is not purified, you don't take off into the inner world, you don't grow, you don't evolve, you don't become my disciple. So it's tied to how we talk about that, the difference between being in a static state and a dynamic state. Static is being with little movement, right? It's like it's a state, right? And then the movement is the actions that we take and how we refine ourselves and things like this. And so that state is like tied to our viewpoints and our thoughts and you know, our inner reflections and all those kinds of things. And we purify it through our actions, our momentums in the world. But there's quicker ways to go through and purify that. And one of them is to use hyssop down below your feet. And then if you wanted to be fancy, you could rub spikenard on the feet after the fact. But you know, Christ didn't need his feet cleaned, but the disciples definitely did. And so it's a way to rapidly work through, be it physical issues, psychological issues, you know, your spiritual growth, things with relationship. If you keep cleaning the area below your feet, there will be movement. There would definitely be movement. And when you're not having movement in your life, it is tied to that area below your feet, you know. Psychologically, you could say this and that, and physiologically, you could say this and that. But really, whenever you want to generate new movement or whatever it is in your life, if you purify that area below your feet, it's going to happen. Like it's mechanics. It's going to happen. Yeah.
So I understand this concept that we materialize thought in our body. Are
Yep.
we doing the same thing with this below our feet? And so that's what we're cleaning, or is this something that is bigger than just what we've
You're releasing more light into your body. By cleaning below your feet, you're releasing more light into your body.
Okay.
So by doing that, when you're doing the materialization breath, you're drawing light up to activate the blue pearl. So by cleaning the area below your feet, it's like you have more light building material to move up, so to speak.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that process of needing to always clean that area, I mean, it's an ongoing process because we're always encountering darkness and needing to bring more light.
Think of it as like just like the exposures and things that have happened in our past has put us in that place and kind of locked us in that place. And by unwinding it, you kind of start to experience like higher states, higher levels, and higher degrees. And so I would say until you're a holy master, cleaning below your feet is, you know, I used to have one teacher that just referred to it as cleaning toilets. He goes, I'm not really a teacher, I'm a janitor. I clean toilets really, really well. Like that's what he was talking about, below your feet.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we could squeeze in like one little, like super quick. We're gonna have to leave in about 2 minutes. So
Yeah, go ahead, Cynthia. Let's see what we can do.
yeah, hey Cynthia.
Hey, so just wanted to say the first round of this last exercise, when we got to the back part, it just prompted a huge anxiety from the solar plexus. Like it was just super pouring out. And then by the time we got to the second round and the third round, it was decreasing.
Good. Yeah.
So it was really a good
Good for you.
good one.
Yeah.
I guess I could send the other question to Sam. It's just a question about.
Yeah.
I'll
Send
send
it to Sam.
her and maybe you can send me an answer.
Yeah,
So,
perfect. Yeah, send
okay,
it to Sam.
thanks.
So we're going to jump over to the blessing of the prayer petitions, and we have a really big stack that I got given today. So we're going to juice it up a little extra. So if you can join us, and it's usually just about a 15-minute process. But if not, hopefully we see you tomorrow night for the study group. And remember, before the study group, we do 2 half-hour sessions with a star where I go through and do healing sessions on you guys. So join us if you can. So take care.